Hi, course 3 students. Today we are on lesson 63, rational numbers, non-terminating decimals and percents, and also fractions with negative exponents. Let's start with those rational numbers. We've worked with fractions in many previous lessons, and we've also converted those fractions to decimals by dividing our numerator by our denominator. Remember, we set it up like this. 1 goes underneath the division bar, 8 is my divisor. I can't do 8 into 1, so I add my decimal point and my 0. And then I would divide. 8 goes into 10 once, and I go so on, and I end up with this decimal of 125 thousandths. That's called a terminating decimal because it ends. A non-terminating decimal is also called a repeating decimal, where we have digits in the decimal that repeat. I have 0 and 9, 0 and 9, and so on. Those numbers are repeating. Instead of writing it out like this with the ellipses at the end, I can write just the numbers that are repeating and put the repeating bar over just those numbers. So I have 1/11 equals 9/100. Let's look at example 1. In example 1, we're taking 2/3 and we need to make it a decimal, a percent, and then we're also going to round it to a decimal to the nearest thousandths place. So let's first make it a decimal. As you see here, when I divide 2 by 3, I end up with 6/10 repeating. And I can write that like this with the 0.6 and the repeating bar over that. So that's the decimal equivalent. To make it a percent, I can do this one of two ways. I can multiply 2/3 times 100%, because we're multiplying in percents, it's always out of 100. So 2 times 100 is 200. 200 divided by 3 is 66 2/3. How we get that is this. If I have 200 divided by 3, 3 is going to go into 26 times, which is 18. And then I bring down my 2 and the 0. And 3 goes into 20, also 6 times, which is 18. And I see that that doesn't equal 0, excuse me. 2. Now I need to add a decimal point and a 0. And then I see here I'm going to have a 6/10 repeating. So I can write this as 66 and 6/10 repeating. Or to make 6/10 repeating decimals, they're pretty easy to convert to fractions. What we're looking at is for every decimal place, that's 10, you do 1 less than the decimal place. So 6/10, I'm multiplying it times 10, which makes it 6. And then I am taking that 10 minus the 1, so it gives it 9. So because I'm moving this over 1 place, that's the 10th place, I subtract 1, and that's 6 over 9, which would be, I can reduce both of these by 3. So this ends up being 6 divided by 3 is 2, 9 divided by 3 is 3, so I end up with the 2/3. So I can also write this as 66 2/3%. Okay, so just quickly on converting the repeating decimals to fractions again. If I had 0.2, that would be 2 over 9. If I had 0.5, that is 5 over 9. Because I'm multiplying it by 10 to get the 2, and then I take 10 minus 1 to get the 9. You're always subtracting that 1 place. If I had a two-digit one, like 12, well, to make 12 a whole number, I have to multiply it times 100. I got to move it 2 places over. So it's 12 over 100 minus 1 gives me 99. I can divide both of these by 3 and get 4/33. Okay, so for every decimal place, you're using that decimal place, so tenths, hundredths, thousandths, but then you always subtract 1 for your denominator. So it's a little tip for you to convert our decimals to fractions. So 66 2/3% was our answer there for the percent. Let's also look at rounding it to the nearest thousands place. So I have again my repeating decimal. To round it to the nearest thousands place, I need to write out 4 places and then round back. So I look at, I'm rounding to the thousands place, which is 3 places. I look 1 place to the right. Does the 6 make this 6 with the arrow over it make my underlined 6 round up or stay the same? Remember, 5 plus we round up, 4 or less we stay the same. So 6 is larger than 5, so I'm going to round up to 667 thousandths. So that is making our fraction a repeating decimal, our fraction percent, and then also a decimal rounded to the nearest thousandths place. Example 2. Oh, excuse me, I gotta scroll down instead of click over. Example 2, I'm going to be essentially doing the same thing here, converting 16 2/3% as a reduced fraction and decimal. So they didn't make the decimal rounded to the nearest thousandths place this time. So let's start with making it a fraction first. So to make a percent a fraction, I'm dividing by 100. So you see here I get 16 2/3 divided by 100. To simplify that, I'm going to convert my mixed number here into an improper fraction. Remember, to do that, we take the denominator times the whole number and then add the numerator. So multiply, add, and then that's how I get 15 over 3. And then I'm dividing, so I'm multiplying by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 100 is 1 over 100. So I would do 50 divided by 3 times 1 over 100. I could simplify my life here by doing some canceling, and I see I get 1/6. So that is the fraction method. To convert the percent to a decimal, we can first make the percent a fraction. We did that before, and now we make the fraction the repeating decimal. So this is where we were doing that before, where we divide the numerator by my denominator, and then when I divide that out, I'm going to get a 1 in my tens place, and then 6 is going to repeat, so I get the 6/10 repeating. Example 3 is going to be similar. The similar work process will be the same. The goal is to make all of your numbers the same type of number, because we need to make them least to greatest. So here in the example, you see that they converted 4/5 to a decimal, 83 1/3% to a decimal, and 83 hundredths, it already is a decimal, just added the terminating 0 there, or the terminal 0 there. So now I can compare these. So now I compare each column. So 8s are the same, 3. So that means 4/5 is my smallest number, because 0 is smaller than the 2 3s. And then if I look at the third column, now I'm just comparing my last 2 numbers. 83 hundredths is a 0. So 4/5, 83 hundredths, 83 1/3% is the order of these numbers from least to greatest. Example 4 is a word problem type for this type of problem that we're looking at. To answer this question, I need to find 41 2/3% of 1,260. So the easiest way to do that is to first convert 41 2/3% to a fraction, and then take that fraction times my 1260. And if you need a review of that, you can go back to the previous examples. And when you solve that, you'll end up with 525 votes. Other part of our lesson today is fractions with negative exponents. When you see a fraction with a negative exponent, or a whole number with a negative exponent, I want you to think of a fraction. X to the negative n equals 1 over nx. So what they did here is they took this, put it in the denominator, and eliminated the negative sign. So an example of that would be 3 to the negative second equals 1 over 3 squared. So 3 squared goes to my denominator, but I take away the negative sign. So if I had another one, if it was 5 to the negative third, that is 1 over 5 to the third. I move this to the denominator, take away the negative sign. If it was 2 to the negative fourth, that is 1 over 2 to the fourth. Okay, so that's the first step of just converting into a fraction. I do want to simplify that. This isn't the final answer, 1 over 3 squared. I actually want to simplify this by squaring 3. So 1 over 3 squared is 9. So my final answer there would be 9. Okay, and then you would simplify the 5 to the negative 3, or 5 to the third and 2 to the fourth as well. If I have a fraction, I'm going to be using the reciprocal. Remember, the reciprocal is taking your fraction and flipping it. If it was 2/3, it's now going to be 3/2. If it was 1/2, it's now 2 over 1. The reciprocal is just flipping it. So if I have a negative fraction, or a fraction with a negative exponent, to solve that, I find the reciprocal of it and then make the positive exponent. So 1 over 3 to the negative second is going to be 3 over 1 to the second. Well, 3 over 1 is 3, squared is 9. Okay, that is the end of this lesson. Let's jump to our lesson notes. Take a look at problems I would like you to complete. Down here at the bottom, we have 2 problems. Problem 1 has 2 or 4 parts. I'd like you to do part A and part C, and then we're also going to do number 2. Okay, so for part A, don't forget you got to make fraction, decimal, and, or actually, I guess it already is a fraction. Make each a decimal and a percent. And then the third part is round it to the decimal to the nearest thousand. So you got 3 answers for A and C. And then for 2, convert all of those to the same type of number. I think a decimal is the easiest. And then put them in order from least to greatest. Okay, please complete those 3 problems and bring them to class. We'll check them over and then we will move on with our assignment. Have a great day.